All right, it's Monday, August 1st. It's the first of the month. And I don't know what I'm so happy about. I got bills no different than everybody else. Um, what I'm doing today is going to start off with a little bit of negativity or just downer news. And it's going to switch over to the positive side, more on the optimistic side. And I first also want to apologize for all the water that I'm going to be drinking while doing this. It's just hot down here in San Antonio. I'm so sorry. I will try to hit the pause button whenever I'm going to start reaching for the thing. On my podcast, it's audio only, so I'm doing it, as freely as I want. But here we are on YouTube, so I'm going to stop making all the slushy noises and all this other stuff. All right, now what I got was concerning the oil. Okay, this is from the Young Turks. This wasn't an article that I read. This is something that I had to write down quickly while they were saying it. Big oil is robbing you at the pump to rake in record-breaking profits. Now, we all know this. If you're on my show, you know this for a fact. I've been talking about this for God knows how long. But here we go. One thing that I couldn't produce was the profits, the recorded profits, because they were just taking their sweet time and disclosing the information. Okay, I was talking a lot about $40 billion within the first quarter year. $40 billion. They made $40 billion, and they're over here saying we need more funds and we don't have the incentive and we don't have the motivation to keep producing more oil, unless, of course, it comes out of our tax-paying dollars. And I've been saying that all throughout the second quarter, without knowing how much they made throughout the second quarter. They made $40 billion the first quarter. What did they make in the second quarter? Well, it turns out they made $60 billion plus in the second quarter. Okay, so they not only made another $40 billion, they made $40 billion plus $20 billion more, at a guesstimation of $2.8 billion per day. That's on the second quarter of this year, of this very same year. Big oil REITs profits, then splurges on buybacks. Okay? Now, we all know that this should be illegal to some extent. It is. To others, it is, providing that we can prove it, and blah, 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 blah. And the list goes on and on. The variations of this goes on and on. What they did was, when the global supply got constrained, the oil and fuel companies had the perfect opportunity to increase production here in the US. But the CEOs claimed the reason for not doing so was they promised their shareholders some steady growth. Now, according to these reporters on this network, the companies openly admitted this, that they wanted all of this price gouging and all of this demand that more production be done on the price, on the taxpayers' expense, and all this stuff is because they promised the shareholders steady growth. Okay, now we all know that this is what they do, but this is what they've done. They claim that they intended to do from the very beginning, out in the open, and that's where that gray line, total illegal gray area stuff starts to come into play. And action isn't taken until action is taken. But not without the huge same excuse, which isn't an excuse. Hey, it's just business, starts to be put into effect. Now, we all know that that's not an excuse to be hurting the people, to be corrupt with business. Unfortunately, there's a lot of legalities that say they can do this and claim it in the name of just business. The shareholders don't want invested money for production. It cuts into their profits and reduces the returns to the shareholders. Now, this is something that I've also been stating. Not so much concerning the shareholders, but concerning the companies themselves. As a contractor, as a person that's actually went to business for myself, I've sold Amway for a small while. I've sold Omnutrition back when Omnutrition wasn't even getting any contracts onto the shelves, back when they were depending on people to sell their multivitamins. Juice Plus, I tried that for a little while too. I got a little bit more distracted with the job that was paying more at the time. But if I had stayed with Juice Plus, that was another multivitamin product that I would have, been banking on by this time. But whether you're doing business for yourself or through contract work, like the way I'm doing now through rideshare, 40 to 60% of your gross, of your total income, net gross, whatever income, has to go right back to your business. Okay? People think that I'm just rolling in the dough as a rideshare driver. I'm making money, yeah, but I'm also paying for auto parts, tires, maintenance fees, and all this good stuff that goes with upkeeping the vehicle. Okay, and getting new cell phone or whatever, an updated cell phone carrier. I'm having to do all of that stuff. And like, much like the McDonald's, much like the Starbucks, much like a mechanic shop, a pharmacy, a restaurant, a hotel, 40 to 60% of what you make out of the entire year is going right back to your business, because it costs that much to maintain. And 40 to 60%, depending on how well business goes, So to hear shareholders wanting to keep on keeping their money, that's not a surprise. But at the same time, when they're avoiding stuff that cuts into their profits and reduces returns, technically everything is supposed to cut into your profits and reduce returns. If you want to keep that influx of money coming, if you want to keep that money coming in, you have to put in back in return a share of what you've profited of. Okay, it's just that, plain and simple. Sometimes, even with a small business owner, it could take up to 40 to 60% of what you make it out of the entire year. Moving on, major companies are doing buybacks after the bear market scheme. Okay, now for the most part, that's speculation on my end. This is where I stop looking at the Young Turks and start throwing in my opinion based off of speculative, speculation, based off of speculative observance, which is, speculation. It's looking like the major company investors might have sold shares because of the fear of the bear market, and are now profiting off of those investments. Now remember, shareholders are not wasting they're not spending their invested money. Okay, they're profiting off of those investments, especially oil and fuel companies, who not seizing the opportunity to increase production. Okay, they're price gouging, and then to top it all off, they're buying companies they're buying shares in stocks that have been sold because of the bear market scare, and profiting off of that. They're not investing, they're not reducing any of their shareholder returns. They're keeping what they bought, those shares that they bought, despite the fact that they bought it while the shares were losing 20 cents to every dollar. That's what the bear market is. When losing 20 cents to every dollar, people are selling their shares because of the simple fact that, they're losing 20 cents to every dollar. Okay? So they're not getting everything that it returns the way they're supposed to in the stock market. Hold on. through this bear scheme, through the bear market scare, with oil and fuel companies buying those stocks that are put up for sale, and the investments not going into production, because it reduces the returns. Well, that's a lot of money that they're keeping. And then to top it all off, they're price gouging, so it's just a win-win no matter what they do or don't do. In this case, not produce any more oil, but go complain at Biden. Now remember, here's where I'm coming to the title. It's either Biden or corporate greed. Here's where I'm coming to that. I'm going to remind everybody, Biden cut off oil flow from Russia. Why? Because it's not Russian oil. It's Eastern Ukrainian oil that they stole, that's sold to us. Okay? Before that, it was Crimean oil. Before that, it was stolen. It was Kosovo oil that was stolen from Russia and sold to the West. Before that, it was Bosnian oil. Before that, it was Croatian oil. Okay? None of it was Russian oil. By the time Biden comes in, and this is as far back as the Clinton administration, by the time, as far as I know, it's even as far back as the Reagan administration and the Bushes. But for right now, during the time that Kosovo and Croatia and Bosnia was being hit, it was in the 1990s. Okay? So sticking with that all the way up to today's times, where Biden is just not putting up with any of it and he's putting a stop to Russian oil, Europe joining him. So it's the West that's standing up to communist Russia, Putin's Russia, and not taking any oil. So the oil companies here in America are saying, oh man, Biden is doing this, so we have to raise prices. Biden lets out reserve oil that was on reserves, stuff that the oil companies had just sitting around. Biden releases that. The oil companies get mad. They start affecting the global market, the bear market scheme, the Wall Street scheme, the bear market, and Biden does a gas tax holiday. The gas tax holiday is only 3 months. By the end of August, it's not August 1st. By the end of this month, the gas tax holiday is over, and we're going to start to see those prices skyrocket again. I mean, unless he comes up with another temporary solution, which is really all that he has left. Because as far as going to other countries, well, he already did that. He went to South America and asked them, hey, can we work a deal? And South America, from Venezuela to Argentina, Mexico, El Salvador, all of these companies, all these oil companies, Chile, Peru, they all said, no. You either buy from us and you take all those refugees that we're kicking out of our country, or there's just no deal. You can move on. No, we're not working a deal. They told him no. Okay? He went to the Middle East. Can we work a deal? No. You're either buying our oil, regardless of however many journalists I murder, or there's just no deal, or you can just go away. Middle East told him no. Russia, we're not taking any of their crap because it's not Russian oil. It's stolen oil. All that's left is the major companies here in the U.S., Chevron, ExxonMobil, Shell, BP, Total Energies, all these companies that are here that have perfect opportunities to reopen refineries. Let me say that again. Reopen refineries that they shut down 2 years ago during the pandemic, laid off all these jobs. They did all these job layoffs and all this good stuff because of the pandemic, and they've never bothered to reopen. They come to Congress saying, well, we don't see a reason to do so. In other words, you're not paying for it. And I mean you as in we, the taxpaying dollars. We, the taxpayers, we're not paying for it. That's the deal that most of these politicians sign whenever the oil companies are demanded for more fuel and oil. Okay, they're deregulated like they were during the previous presidential administration, which just finished just 2 years ago, and this is what we're looking at right now. This is the abuse that they're putting on all of us. This is the lashing out with gas price gouges that they're doing on us right now. There was a pandemic. This is what they did. They fired everybody and shut down refineries that are still sitting, collecting dust, that could be reopened and producing more oil and fuel for us. This is what gas companies and oil companies are doing right now. Plus, they also had a couple of other refineries that they were going to be building. And they went to Congress saying, well, we don't really see an initiative. We don't really see a reason to work on brand new refineries. We don't see it. I don't see a reason to do so. I don't think there will be ever again in this country a brand new refinery ever built. We just don't have the motivation. Those were their words. The CEO of Chevron, the CEO of Exxon, CEO of Mobil, all of them sent all seven, because that's what we got. We don't have mom and pa oil going over to one side. There's no state with no mom and pop oil drills. You know, they're all owned by the 7 major companies who sent representatives of their companies straight to Washington, D.C. and told the government, we're throwing a whole bunch of bullshit at you. Excuse me, I forgot, I'm on the YouTube one. We're throwing a bunch of BS excuses why we can't produce anything. So you need to deregulate everything so we can get back to doing what we do. That's what he's telling them. That's what they're telling him, Biden, and the administration, and everybody that they feel is against them. There's also one more thing. The Keystone Pipeline. I keep bringing it up all the time. I keep bringing it up. Eventually, so does the news people, the news reporters. Eventually, so does the representatives of those gas companies. They want the Keystone Pipeline reopened. Okay, from Alaska, which connects to Trans-Canada, which goes into the Dakotas of the United States, separates to Illinois, while the rest of it comes down here to Texas. 600,000 barrels a day, but we're losing a third of it every time. We're losing a third of it because there's always cracks, there's always leaks, there's always separate breakage. There's not breakage, if not separate pipeline breaks. And none of the oil companies are doing anything about it until it's discovered. Why? Because none of them are sending engineers, oversights, supervisors, environmental protections. None of them. They're sending nothing of the such down that pipeline, keeping an eye on it whenever it does. We're stumbling upon to a third of it being lost by those that accidentally stumble on it. Hikers, adventurers, campers, people that are doing aerial tours in those airplanes tours. Others that are learning to fly their drones recreationally. The drones, not the kind that the military makes. Doing photography and all this good stuff. It's people that stumble on to these giant spills of oil that are in our land, that are in our waters. They're contaminating everything, they're polluting everything to top it all off. The 7 major companies want that pipeline open, regardless of the fact that not only they're doing damage to our earth, not only that they're doing damage to the water, not only that if it gets repaired, if anybody stumbles on it, but the simple fact that it's losing a third of all the barrels per day that it's making. Okay? So in other words, they're claiming 600,000 barrels per day, but it's not really. It's not really. Because they're losing a third of that. It's not exactly the paradise that they're claiming it to be. It's not the plentifulness that we are led to believe. It's a total fabrication. It's a lie. It's a downright lie. Which comes back to the title of this episode. It's either stick to Biden or bow down to the corporate greed people and vote somebody else in the presidency, somebody else in another administration that'll deregulate the corporations all over again. It's gonna come down to a choice. It's gonna come down to a chance of one or the other. And get this, we the voters are gonna have a part into it. We're at least gonna have a say-so. Whether it's rigged or stolen or whatever, the people will still be speaking. And it's up to us to let everybody know where we stand. It's either Biden or corporate greed. And it's running out of time. We're running out of different opportunities, different avenues. Nobody is looking into this. Okay? Everybody's saying, well, we can't have Biden. We need somebody else. Except there is nobody else. And anybody else that steps up, you know for a fact is not going to be taking a shellacking the way Biden is doing right now after the previous 8 years as vice president to Obama, where he got the skill to take a beating from the people. Excuse me one second. I mean, Biden's been broken in. You know, he knows how to take a beating from everybody and still do his job. He can't sit on his bicycle, but he knows how to do his job and take a beating in the process. He can't go upstairs into his plane without stumbling and tripping. But he's over here doing his damn job, which leads me to the second portion of this hour. You know what? I forgot to write down who wrote this article, and I do apologize for that. But here's the article title. Okay, here's the article title: Biden administration to close border wall gaps in Arizona. Excuse me. Now, when I read that title, woof! I couldn't believe what I was reading. What are you talking about? Biden with the border wall? You know, he threw out that stuff a long time ago, or did he? It turns out, no. A little bit of history. The Supreme Court earlier this month declined to freeze the lower court order that blocked the Department of Homeland Security from implementing a new immigration enforcement priorities. The court's 5-4 order was a loss for Biden, who was trying to return to the Obama-era policies that limited immigration arrests in order to focus on security risks instead of the more aggressive approach taken under the Trump administration. Arizona Democratic Senator Mark Kelly praised the decision to close the wall gaps. He's pressed the president to approve the gap closures in December, as far back as December, and has made numerous calls with White House and Alejandro Mayorkas. Y'all know who he is if you've been listening to my show. He's the guy that's in charge of many of migrant facilities and upkeeps and all this good stuff, data processing and everything. He's the one that's doing everything with order and organization, while everybody else is going, disaster, it's an invasion, and all this other crap. Okay? He's the one that's actually doing the pencil pushing work and all this good stuff. Continuing. When Biden took office, he called for a review on the border wall projects, okay? Taking back Trump's national emergency declaration, who was dipping into additional funds. You might remember this, where he was getting portraits of himself done and all this good stuff. Buying a bunch of land and all this good stuff and buildings and everything. The Biden administration had authorized the United States Customs and Border Patrol to close 4 gaps of the Yuma Morelos Dam project in Arizona. It makes adjustments for preventing flood and completing prior construction of access roads. Okay, so this was not only something in the name of border security, it was part of infrastructure. It supported infrastructure with completing of the construction of access roads and preventing floodings, which is what dams are usually good for. The Biden administration has canceled several border contracts, obviously, especially with this review that he's done of border wall projects. Okay, he's canceled several border wall contracts and has also returned property to landowners who spent years fighting land seizures in court. This is back when Trump was around. He said, I'm going to build this wall here. You don't like it because your land is on the border. Well, that's too bad. We're taking the land and we're putting the wall up there. The landowners were fighting for their land back. Some of them even pointing out that there's no point in a border wall because they don't go through their lands. They go through the more easier access parts. Okay? But this is the type of, this 4 gaps thing, 4 gaps at the Yuma Morelos Dam. Okay? That's the regulation that I'm talking about. Okay? He had a review being done over the border wall projects instead of just writing checks and giving it to the government and saying, okay, back off. He had people reviewing the border wall projects. He found one that made sense and fell in the lines of the infrastructure, and that's the one that he authorized. And that's the one that I want. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see. You know, because nobody wants gaps in our security, but it would stay that way without regulation. Without that presidential administrative reviewers, infrastructure people checking out the areas, checking out all options out of the border protection and finding out that this is the one that they need to actually focus on, it would still be there. The gaps at that dam would still be there. And it's no different than here in Texas. The reason why, and I usually don't like to bring up any other state because I'm in Texas and I try to focus on Texas only matters, but it's germane to this situation because of the simple fact that we've got a governor here in Texas that's suing the government so far up to $4 billion and is handing out checks to all these border counties where migrants are still coming in. They've been claiming disaster. They've been claiming invasion. They've been claiming overwhelmness for the past 4 years. And the governor has been suing the government, so far totaled up to $4 billion. That's $1 billion a year. And sending out checks to these border counties. How much? Well, so far, not all of them have actually disclosed how much money they're getting. No. One did, Kennedy County, revealing that last year they got $700,000. And get this, the only reason why they got paid that much is because they were picking up dead bodies, dead migrants that died of heat exhaustion, so they say, without doing an autopsy on them, because that would, according to them, that would just skyrocket the prices. So we are left to believe and take their word for it that those migrants that they picked up were already dead. No people of hate were responsible for this. None whatsoever. You got tons of people, no traffickers were responsible for it. None whatsoever. Who knows? We don't know. No autopsies were being done. And that county got $700,000 just off of the Operation Lone Star. And if you go through my posts, you'll see Operation Lone Star in its BS categories, title to their posts, you'll see that a lot of the Operation Lone Star policy and procedures was all about making criminals out of ordinary people. Some weren't even migrants. Some weren't even Latino. They were white Americans. Without the regulation, that kind of crap goes on. That's what's currently going on here in Texas. It's one part that got stopped concerning the Yuma Morelos Dam because of the regulation. Now, the gaps are blocked. The gaps are filled. That part of the dam that supplies the border that takes part in our border security is now complete in Arizona concerning that one little location. Millions, tens of millions to hundreds of millions of dollars has been sued for on the government by these states, my state included. Up to $4 billion now in Texas. Without the regulation, that's what's going on. Without the reviews, without the presidential administration sending in a review to the border wall projects to see which project out of the checks actually work or what's for best for our country. Without that, we've got nothing but signed checks getting dispersed to what the governors call their people. They'll say it's the people, but it's really going to their people, whoever they are. Here in Texas, we found all the people that are running Kennedy and Kinney County. Uvalde was one of them, and if that sounds familiar, that's where the elementary school shooting took place. Before that shooting, everybody was pro-Abbott, pro-Trump, border wall, especially the ones that were in the higher up chairs, in the people that were running the county, who were getting their portions of the check that the governor was giving them after suing the president. So, you got a lot of crap about Biden doing this and Biden doing that and all this other stuff. Well, the Biden administration is doing the work here in Arizona. This is the regulation that I'm talking about. Something where it actually takes effect rather than Biden just signing a check and giving it to the governor and the governor dispersing it whichever way that he pleases, and the wall and the border protection still not there. It's all, but see, here's the thing. This is what goes on constantly because this is the plan that works. As I've said in previous projects. Excuse me. As I've stated in previous posts, nothing's really stopping the governors of our states, of our southwestern states, to sue the government and claim some kind of emergency declaration, a huge problem that only tax-paying dollars could provide, our nation's tax-paying dollars, through something like that infrastructure bill, $550 of free spending category, aside from the billions that's going to telecom, the billions that's going to roads, the billions that's going to dams. We still got people, governors that are suing the governor in the name of this type of infrastructure or that type of infrastructure. Here in Texas, it's for the border wall. And instead of actually going to that or whatever it is that is being proclaimed in the other states, instead of what's going to that, it's just being spread amongst the higher ups. And the higher ups are telling every citizen, every normal citizen, every working class, paycheck to paycheck citizen, that you are now safe. That we're handling everything, despite the fact that every single report, they're overwhelmed. It's an invasion. We're in an emergency. But you're safe. You're safer when your governor sues the government. And it's going to be the same thing tomorrow. We're overwhelmed. It's an invasion. This is an emergency. It's going to be the same thing next year tomorrow. If we're lucky next year. That's $700,000 over in Kennedy County. The request for more help from Governor Greg Abbott was 5 months later. 5 months after $700,000. All they're doing is scooping up dead people. They're not even building anything. They're certainly not making a wall. They're not making a wall. They're not putting up any holding facilities. They're not even putting any EMS clinic facilities to make sure that the migrants aren't carrying in COVID. Like the way the facilities are under Alexander Mayorkas of the Biden administration. I'm not making any of this up. See it for yourself. I've posted the posts. I've told you what articles they were. What articles and what interviews, the news interviews they were. I'm not making this up. See for yourself. And while you're at it, see what's going on in your state. See what's going on in your state. See what's going on in your part of the state if you're here in Texas. See what's going on in your part of the state. You know? Wake up and most importantly, share that information. Okay? Share that information. Share those facts. Don't share articles of opinions. Okay? As I've stated before to the past 2 or 3 posts, and I'm going to say it again. Okay? There's an article that's got facts. These are the facts. These are the percentages of those facts. And this is the possibilities of the outcome. Possibilities of negative, possibilities of positive. That's one article under a certain issue or subject matter, sticking to that subject or issue. On an entirely different article, these are the facts. Oh no, there isn't. These are the percentages of these facts. Oh, they're much lower. And this is the possible result. Maybe negative, maybe positive. Oh, nothing good is coming out of this. Ever. People, you see the articles. Read it. You see what they're doing. You can see the difference. Go along with the ones with the facts, okay? And if you got somebody that's having to throw their opinion no differently than me, make sure that they're throwing out the fact that it's speculation on his or her part, the way I'm doing. You know, my speculations is mostly off of the best probable odds given the facts that are there. Okay? Not just saying, oh, you know it. Oh, you know it's true. Okay? No. You're not seeing that off of this. Why? Because it wouldn't be common sense on common ground in Chris's comments. Plain and simple. I'll be fair, and the reason why I declaim it is because of the full fact that I'm also honest when I'm wrong, when I've made an incorrect guess, and I have to correct it. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not sticking to my guns and sticking to some hoax, conspiracy, rhetoric thing. You know, no, when I'm wrong, I'll admit it, and I'll do the correction, and I'll carry on as the normal process as to what's going on. And it's mostly because of the simple fact that I go by one particular rule. Rule of thumb. It's all about the money. Belief is the tool. So I'm entitled to be a little off target by sticking to that nature, that rule of thumb. Because sometimes I'm wrong in figuring out how the money is ascertained. And sometimes I'm trying to figure out what in the world makes these people believe all this Armageddon bullcrap, because they're stating this, they're stating that, and a lot of it is debunked lies. They're stating this, they're stating that based off of some kind of actual occurrence. They're stating this, they're stating that based off of some organizational title, that seems that might seem too good to be true, or may have scandals of their own, But for every one of those beliefs, there's money backed up into this, backed up by it, backed up into this, money to gain, profit to gain. And that's usually where I'll be at a loss as to what and where it's coming from, what's going to be ascertained, and through what means, and by what means that it's going to be ascertained. And usually it doesn't take much of a genius when you see National Declaration Emergency, when you see a declaration of emergency, you could see where it's going, hold on. Sorry about that. It's just hot down here. I'm in the shade, but once that sun beams in, this car turns into an easy bake oven on wheels. So that's the spiel right there. Y'all take care, y'all take it easy, and take a look at what the report is saying, not just what the information is, but the opinions to that information, because it's speculation is one thing. Spouting and spewing rhetoric and all this other crap is an entirely different thing. Okay? There's nothing wrong with being passionate about about how you're posting, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. I've been burping, and I do apologize. You weren't deceived. Sorry. There's nothing wrong about being passionate about how you post this stuff. But it still has to go within some kind of reasonable means, There's another guy on YouTube who actually asked people's opinions to write, email, or just type in on his YouTube site. Do I come across as mean, or am I going too far, and all this other stuff? Well, I don't know if I could say his name, but I responded and said, technically you're not wrong in it so far. But even if you were, you're being passionate in what you're doing, which I don't think he was. When you see somebody saying, Pizzagate, Watergate, and all these perverts and all this other stuff, damn that politician. That's just false accusation. And if they're going to go off with that, so should every commentator. That douchebag that named all these that did all this name calling, is a dumbass douchebag and just this worthless waste of life that we shouldn't even be listening to, but it's an entirely different thing where you're pointing out facts and just simply in denial, and you're pointing out stuff that you can use to back up some kind of rhetoric, some kind of propaganda, and at the very bottom of the list, some kind of entertaining conspiracy theory, because conspiracy theories are very entertaining. They're very entertaining. I'm not going to deny that. Yeah, it's a totally different scenario when it's a false accusation that you literally believe. and is the reason to use it as to fuel your anger, which feeds into hate. And that's just wrong. That's where it's wrong, you know? And it's amazing that somebody like me, a guy with a GED, has to point that out. But I might as well, to let you guys know where I stand, you know, I might as well just point it out. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being passionate about how you feel about what you're posting, you know, but taking it to the part where it feeds into the anger of people, which leads to hate and acts of hate, that's the line. That's where the line has to be drawn. So, and that's, you know, that's what this host feels about. So I hope now that you know this, now that you see where I'm coming from and how I'm viewing all the others that are making their posts and all this good stuff, and how I feel is reasonable, and what's something that you just swipe to the left, to the left, to the left, and carry on. I hope y'all can see here on this show, no matter how wild the news gets, no matter how insane political leaders or any leader is looking, on this show, we're going to be focused on the common ground, on common sense kind of thing. You know, our president looks like a buffoon because he's always stumbling and stuttering and all this stuff. Yeah. But he's not using his speech to fuel the anger of people of hate. So, that's fine. Stutter away. Our guy, he's falling off of his bicycle and stumbling on stairs. He might not be fully healthy. Nah, he's not. He's already caught COVID twice. But you know what? He's still sending those home COVID tests. He's still quarantining migrants that come into our facilities whenever they catch COVID, whenever they bring in somebody that's got COVID. You know, he's still authorizing new and updated vaccinations. You know, while every politician, even those that people think would be better than him, aren't doing a darn thing. Sorry, I forgot this is YouTube. My apologies. On the podcast, I could say whatever I want, however I want. I do apologize. I got to keep reminding myself this. So yeah, he's standing up to a country, Russia, and saying, no, we're not buying your stolen oil. He's standing up to CCP, not China per se, and because if you read if you listen to my post on the Chinese, how they were being good Samaritans reporting COVID-19 and forced into being quiet, if not actually disappearing off of the face of the earth, presumably being murdered, and professors and scientists that had to go into witness protection because CCP told them, get all the evidence that you have, and I want you expedited to our country immediately. Two never resurfaced. They went and they went to the country. They've been missing since. The other two professors went into witness protection. They didn't do what they were ordered to do. Those were Chinese people. They were Chinese, and they were reporting COVID like good Samaritans, no differently than what we Americans do. And they were forced into silence. Some of them disappeared, which we can presume are murdered. And the last that actually have survived are in witness protection. We shouldn't be hating the Asians. And we should be giving props to Biden for telling the CCP to go F themselves. We're starting the chip program. I didn't see any Democrats, let alone Republicans, make this claim. None of them did this stuff. Not even Trump, the one that started the embargoes against China. He didn't say anything near that. He just stopped the flow. That was it. Hell no, I'm not voting for anybody other than Biden. Hell yes, I'm voting for him again. He's the one that's handing out COVID home tests. He's the one that's bringing different variations of the vaccination. I don't see anybody jumping on board that crap. I don't see anybody doing this. I don't see anybody saying, I could have gotten more. I could have presented this. I would have worked a deal out with these companies, this company, that company, and we would have produced X amount, and we would have had enough vaccinations for everybody, blah, 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 and all this other stuff. You know, without the taxpayer's expense. Now, that's total bullcrap, but you still, every opportunist has the opportunity to say this against Biden. None are doing that yet. But by this time, too late, fools. You should have started that from the beginning. Sorry. Hell yes, I'm voting for him again. I'm not saying you should, but I wouldn't be surprised if you did. He's the only one that's actually doing some crap. And again, he's taking a beating no differently than he was when he was vice president. Still carrying on, still moving on. Falling off his bicycle, still moving on. Stumbling on some stairs, still moving on. Getting every foreign door slammed on him because he won't put up with their bullcrap. They told him no. They said no. You either buy from us and take all this crap that we're giving you, all these immigrants that we're kicking out of our own country, or no deal. Dude. Hell yes, I'm voting for him again. The hell with everybody else. So, and again, this isn't telling you that you should. I'm not telling you anything. You do what you want. But you got to understand, this is common sense thinking on common ground. After what I've seen out here, this is what's going to be my move. You guys make your own, okay? Good luck. I wish you the best. Stay safe out there. And keep looking after each other, okay? This is Chris with Chris's Comments, signing out.